When I got married, I chose to wear a veil over my face during the ceremony and to take part in a Jewish pre-wedding ritual called a bedekin, in which Josh placed the veil over my face just before we were getting ready to walk down the aisle. And after he did so, the cantor who married us said, "The next time you look directly into each other's eyes, you will be married." That experience, the feeling of being enveloped and of seeing the world in a soft focus the way I'd never seen it before, and the vibrancy of the world that greeted me when I heard that glass break and the veil was lifted, sharpened my focus on the change that was taking place. It helped create a sensory, embodied experience of before and after. I wasn't married, and then I was. That was then, and this is now. I believe in the power of ritual. I revel in the smell of the spices and the sizzling sound of a flame being extinguished in wine during Havdalah. I love casting my sins into the water in the form of birdseed at Tashlich on Rosh Hashanah. I know deep in my soul that there is no sound that better invokes the heartbreak of loss than the sound of a shovel full of earth hitting a casket when we accompany a loved one to burial. All of these rituals help us draw a line of demarcation between before and after so that we can physically experience the sacred moment we are marking and mindfully step into the present. It's no mistake that the Hebrew word for holiness, kedushah, is connected to the idea of separation. The rituals that we use at these holy moments help us organize our world and make order out of chaos. They help us feel in our bones, I was not married, and now I am. It was Shabbat, and now a new week is beginning. My friend was alive, and now he is gone. That was then, these rituals help us realize, and this is now. Our Torah portion this week, Chukat, offers a primer on the importance of ritual and the consequences of failing to mark these moments. The text explains that anyone who has been present for a death or comes in contact with a dead body is rendered tameh for 7 days. The word tameh is often translated as unclean or impure, but it tends to be associated with moments in which the veil between God's realm and our own is lifted, such as at birth and at death. If you've experienced these sacred moments, you may be familiar with the regular boundaries of time and space seeming to dissolve and feeling connected to something profound and larger than yourself. Our life at these moments is upended, and we can't carry on as though nothing has happened. So what do? How do we lower that veil again and cross back into our own world and move forward? Well, the answer provided this week is unusual. God tells Moses that the Israelites have to sacrifice a pure red heifer and leave its ashes outside the camp. And when someone becomes tameh because they have been in contact with death, the ashes will be mixed with water and then sprinkled on the person to render them pure. If these instructions are not followed, they will remain tameh and cut off from the community. My recommendation is that you not try this one at home. And even the rabbis of the Talmud acknowledge that the ritual of the red heifer makes no logical sense. As Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai taught his students, a dead person doesn't make things impure, and water doesn't make things pure. But we need to do something to acknowledge the trauma and disorder that is wrought by encountering death. And so God gives us a multi-sensory experience to recognize what has happened and allow us to move on. Well, what happens if we don't? Well, our portion offers an illustration. We're told the Israelites arrived at the wilderness of Zin on the first new moon, and the people stayed at Kadesh. Miriam died there and was buried there. The community was without water, and they joined against Moses and Aaron. Faced with the wailing of his community, Moses, who has just lost his sister, speaks to God, who gives him instructions about how to bring water out of a rock. But instead of sanctifying that moment, Moses angrily strikes the rock, saying, "Listen, you rebels, shall we get water out of this rock for you?" Notably, when it is printed without vowels, as it is in the Torah, the word for rebels, morim, is the same as Miriam, the sister whose loss Moses has not been allowed to mourn. Because he lashes out this way, God tells Moses he will not be allowed to enter the promised land. So let's listen to the echoes between this series of events and the warning that was issued with the ritual of the red heifer. Moses had buried his sister. He was tameh. But instead of letting him sit shiva, the people called him into holy service with disastrous results. Because the community failed to acknowledge the rupture caused by Miriam's death, the water dried up, and Moses was told he would be cut off from his community. The Israelites appear to have learned from this experience because when Aaron dies later in the portion, his death is surrounded by ritual. He takes a physical journey, ascending a mountain. He hands over his priestly vestments to his son, passing on his legacy. And when he dies, the whole community mourns for 30 days. Only then do they move on. Our rituals around death contain some of the deepest wisdom Judaism has to offer. We know that in the first week following a loss, we are tameh. We are undone and bereft, unable to take our place in community. And then in the first 30 days, we return to life, but we cannot be asked to celebrate. And for the first year, we meet each season as the first spring or summer or fall without our loved one. And then we place a veil over the headstone and we lift it, marking the moment when our formal mourning is complete. We were mourners, and now we are not. That was then, and this is now. It's not only marriage and birth and death that deserve to be marked with ritual. Think of all the times that we experience a profound shift in our lives. When we retire or move to a new home, when we become a grandparent, when we come out to our families or choose to be sober, when we survive an illness. All of these are sacred moments that deserve to be lifted up and recognized. This week, I had the opportunity to celebrate one such moment with a member who had just completed chemotherapy. When the end of their treatment was approaching, I asked them if they would like to create a ritual together to mark this momentous occasion. They are brave, so they said yes. So we met in a park, and we shared in Birkat HaGomel, the blessing we say when we survive a life-threatening experience. They said what they wanted to leave behind and what they wanted to take with them from their experience. I offered the priestly benediction. And by doing this, we drew a line in the sand and we walked over it together. They were sick, and now they are not. Rituals tell us stop. The thing you experienced is real. It matters. It changed you in ways that our community should know about. This is why it's so essential that we not only take time to mark our individual moments, but also as a society to mark this year that we've been through. We've lost 600,000 people in the United States alone. We're now preparing to re-enter society. We need to work together to figure out how to acknowledge all of that, or we will remain neither here nor there, unable to move forward because we are unwilling to look back. Tonight, I want to thank you for this ritual of helping me pause to mark the end of my first 5 years as a rabbi at Central Synagogue. This moment is all the sweeter for happening 5 years into our relationship. It's given me the time to learn from all of you, not only from my clergy colleagues and mentors and my amazing adult engagement team, but from all of our members who've been kind enough to share with me the important moments of their lives. I'm standing here and thinking, there was a time when I was not your rabbi, and now I am. That was then, and this is now. And I am so unbelievably grateful.